Welcome in to another new podcast from the Association for Materials Protection and Performance. My name is Ben Dubose, and I'm a news editor with the AMP Publications team. In that role, I create content for both Materials Performance Magazine and Coatings Pro Magazine, both of which are member magazines of AMP. Today, we're going to be talking about the upcoming Maritime Coatings Contractor Forum, which is being held out in Virginia Beach, Virginia, during the first week of next month. To do that, I'm joined by a distinguished panel. We've got Jennifer Merck, Vice President of Maritime and Defense at AMP, as well as a handful of sponsors and prominent industry leaders who are doing great work to help support this inaugural event. Before we get into the questions I've got for each of you, I want to start with introductions, and it's always a little bit easier if I allow each of you to introduce yourselves and tell us about your distinguished career. So can each of you tell our audience a bit about yourself, your company, and what it is that you're doing now on a daily basis? Jennifer, we can start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Merck. I am the Vice President of Defense and Maritime for AMP. I've been with the association for 26 years. Love serving our members and happy to be on this call.
Next on my screen is Jim.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jim Hartley. I'm with PPG Industries, and I'm the National Sales Manager for Government Marine for PPG here in the United States and Canada. So I support that whole entire function with PPG, and proud to say I'm a 27-year member of AMP.
Russell?
Hello, my name is Russell Roden. Yes, I'm the founder and the CEO of Atlantic Design Incorporated. We design and manufacture abrasive blasting and recovery equipment for the blastings and coatings industry, celebrating, I think it's our 28th year.
And then Joe?
Hi, my name's Joe McReel. I'm with Urban Industries. Urban Industries is a producer of steel and stainless steel blasting abrasives. They're recyclable. And Urban's a 105-year-old company, and we were the inventor of steel grit and steel shot. I've been in the industry for 37 short years, and certainly maritime coatings is an important industry for us, and we're very active in that market.
And finally, Bob.
Yes, thank you. So Robert Dahlstrom with Appellix. We make aerial robotic systems that do everything from surface prep with cleaning, so painting, and then also non-destructive testing. My background is in software. The first company I founded was Internet Security Company. This company, I tell people drones are flying computers. It's also a software company.
All right, let's move into our panel questions. And Jen, we'll start with you before we get into some of the particulars about the companies represented today, industry trends. I want to start by looking at the forum itself, which is taking place February 3rd and 4th in Virginia Beach. So, Jen, you were instrumental in helping organize this event and put this concept together. Why did AMP take the lead on this Maritime Coatings Contractor Forum, and why is this forum so important right now for the industry?
So I think most of you know the maritime sector is under an intense pressure situation from fleet readiness and infrastructure sustainment to workforce shortages, evolving standards, and increasing regulatory performance expectations. These are all things our contractors have to deal with, our members. So the coating contractors sit at the center of all this, yet they really have a dedicated venue focused on real-world challenges, lessons learned, and workforce needs. So that's why we did this event. The forum is about elevating the perspective and connecting it directly to asset owners, shipyard suppliers, and policymakers. So we brought all of the contractors together and formed multiple panels that will be taking place. We have the supplier sponsors on this call, so just excited for the event to be happening in a couple of weeks.
All right, I want to ask each of you why you're taking part in this forum and why it's so important to you and your company. Russell, we can start with you on this one.
Okay. We're involved in this, and why it's so important, because this forum will give us an OEM and maritime surface prep contractors a chance to really meet face-to-face and learn from each other. It's a great setting to talk about how new and emerging technologies actually fit the new reality of real-world projects, not only new technologies in engineering, but also the new technologies in the coatings and the whole aspect of the coating industry. Compared to large expos, these conversations here are much more focused and meaningful puts us in the same room with multiple decision makers, which is just invaluable to get that one-on-one information that we can't get otherwise. There's space for open discussion around industry trends, common challenges, and practical solutions. And ultimately for ADI, the biggest value is learning. We're going here to learn directly from customers and also from you partners as to what the evolving trends are, what's going to be moving forward, how we can help support improving and moving forward in the technologies.
Bob, I'll move on to you.
Yeah, so at Appellix, I say the value we add to this is the military and maritime community. We automate some of the most dirty and dangerous work on ships and waterfront infrastructure. We have National Defense Authorization compliant aerial robotic systems that are already being used to power wash, to do some limited surface prep, to inspect steel structures without scaffolding or lifts. Same thing with the painting drone. It also reduces that. So this is shortening schedules, reducing risk, freeing up your skilled labor for higher value tasks. And those types of things are also part of the collecting the digital data for QA and QC for future condition and monitoring. So this combination of safety, schedule, and data is exactly what AMP maritime contractors and Navy asset owners have been asking for as they look to close the workforce gaps and increase asset availability. So this helps with, mission fit, with readiness and risk. It helps with the, proven coatings and inspection capability, and acts as a force multiplier for the contractor workforce.
Jim, you can go next.
Well, when we first heard about this conference, we knew we had to be a part of it. I can say that there's a large amount of the people that are going to be there in attendance. We already have significant business with. But at the end of the day, we really don't have opportunity to get their top level executives together all in one place. So that's huge. And we look forward to, conversing with these people. Some I've met, some I personally have not. I'm usually dealing more with people on the deck plates, but this high level feedback is something I think we're going to find to be invaluable that'll benefit PPG as we continue forward with our strategy.
And finally, Joe.
Yeah, well, thanks for having Irvin. We learned about this conference, and it's what I believe is one of the best opportunities for us to get together with asset owners and talk a little bit about some of the cost pressures that are on shipbuilding and repair and anything in the maritime and defense world, because the cost to do these things there's a lot of pressure on that. And as a manufacturer of sustainable abrasives, blasting grains sometimes are considered a low-cost consumable, but they have a pretty big impact on waste generation. And we want to really beat the drum on lowering the actual disposal cost, the cost of using blast cleaning as the process. There's a host of surface preparation methods out there, but one of the things that we think is pretty important is, the pressure on the environmental side of it. And recycling most of these projects need containment, and they need some of these structures that help support the surface preparation. And so when you build these structures to support the dust in the environment, it's natural to look for recyclable abrasives or something that's going to be more sustainable. So, the question, that I'm interested to learn more about when we do this forum is how important is sustainability, and where can we make some practical changes in some of the specifications, that might, advance some of this technology in abrasives. So, like Atlantic Design, who makes some of the equipment that does this, that's their goal as well, is that we're going to come up with more cost-effective surface preparation systems and technologies that make the sustainability of this thing advance.
Joe, that's a perfect transition. I was going to ask about the discussions each of you are most looking forward to once we get to Virginia Beach on the 3rd and 4th of February, some of us arriving on the 2nd. And I think you already spelled out one of them. I'll ask the same question to our other three panelists. Bob, we can start with you on this. What conversations do you want to hear? What do you want to learn about? Just from Appellix's perspective, what are you wanting to see and hear on the ground?
Yeah, I think what's most important is the asset owners themselves and what it is that we can do, offering a new technology, a new way of doing things, right, with aerial robotic systems that can clean and coat and do measurements, contact-based measurements, working drones, if you will. how can we help the maritime industry? How can those technologies unlock economic value for them and also intangibles like, fleet readiness or reducing the time of ships in dry dock or whatever it might be, or scheduling. So a lot of this is down to two things. One is learning what we can learn from the asset owners about how we can help. And two is education, how we can educate them what we have and how we can be educated by them about what we have and how the two can mesh together to end up being a win-win for both entities.
Jim, from PPG's perspective as a manufacturer, what are you wanting to learn about when you get to Virginia Beach? What are you wanting to talk about?
Well, I see a lot of the people there being straight contractors, which is good for us. We're always anxious and ready to talk about corrosion and paints and barrier protection and such as that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be about getting more one-on-one with top-level people and talking about just what keeps them awake at night. And, how can PPG fit into that mold of what their future looks like to them, and, what kind of key solutions they're looking at for us to develop to fill their needs.
And finally, Russell, I know you all look at things from a surface prep perspective. What kinds of conversations and dialogues are you wanting to have once we get on the ground in Virginia Beach?
Again, like all the others, we're looking forward to, some open conversations with the contractors and also the fellow sponsors and about upcoming trends and what challenges are they experiencing in various equipment and the service preparation, and then opportunities heading into 2026 and beyond. And how can we impact these in a positive way? So we want to not only learn more about the contractors, but even Joe can tell you we have learned more about how can we help make his product work better. I'm interested to get with PPG and Appellix and see how our technologies can all work together to provide quicker, lower cost, safer solutions to the contractors. But we especially want to hear about upcoming projects, anticipated equipment needs, and ongoing issues and concerns that they have with equipment that we manufacture. How can it be improved? How can we affect them in a positive way? And we're always focused on adapting our technology for a better fit. And I would say that's what we do the best. We try to go out and find out what do they need? How can we have our equipment fit their need and fit in real world outside conditions? And that way we can help ensure that our equipment will continue to improve and evolve for the needs of the shipyard surface preparation industry.
So we're recording this in January of 2026, a couple of weeks before the event out in Virginia Beach. That's the Maritime Coatings Contractor Forum. Go to the events tab on the amp.org homepage and you can learn more. Anytime we're at the start of a new year, it's a point in which people around our industry and really in any industry will often take stock. They'll take inventory of where we are. And so entering the new year, I'm curious what you all see as some of the primary challenges, but also opportunities when it comes to maritime coatings. You each represent different segments within the industry, so I'm curious to pick your brains regarding some of the trends, the market drivers. Joe, we can start with you. Entering 26, what are some of those trends, market drivers, challenges, and/or opportunities that you all see within the maritime coating space?
Well, going into 2026, we think about the what is the budgets and what are some of the initiatives that are in the asset owners, what's on their front page. We're sort of curious to learn what's important to them as much as we can tell you what's happening on a rather stable process, which is blast cleaning, the abrasives and how they support some of these new coatings. Maybe there's some technology out there that they're going to ask us for help with. One of the things we noticed is that over time, coatings get better and better. And as coatings perform better, sometimes the cleanliness and sometimes the profiles and some of the surface preparation methods need to adjust a little bit with it. So we're very eager to chase that. As much as what we see coming is that there's more and more pressure on everyone's budget. And how can you do these projects more cost effective? And how can you get more mileage or more square feet or more anything out of the budget you have and the time allowed to do it? So when I think about some of the things changing in the market, we're going to respond to the market, and the market's going to direct us to what their needs are. And so as most suppliers to the market. We'd love to be able to have the power to change a market, but most of the time we have to react and invent to meet the needs and so that these goals are met.
Russell, I'll go to you next.
Yeah, we're seeing a strong demand for flexible, space-saving equipment and designs, especially in shipyards where the footprints is always tied and it's always a constraint. They're wanting to see the cost savings, not only cost savings of the equipment, but cost savings and speed of setting it up, and then also hopefully maybe increasing production. We're getting more interest in recycling and reclaiming the different types of abrasives and how we can handle it in many different applications if it happens to get damp and wet and this sort of stuff. Also, controls are a big interest. We're asking for more connectivity with Wi-Fi and Ethernet, and they're also wanting to do more monitoring, like flow monitoring and weight of the abrasive consumption monitoring and eyes like this. So we've been focused on our controls and our blast controls. We're looking to evolve those into the new operational controls. From challenges, like everyone else, we want to meet the growing market demand, but we all have the parts cost availability the problems to continue to be a problem. But we want to position ourselves to be able to respond to the market-specific purpose equipment, which we believe has been our biggest increase over the last few years. So we want to scale our operations to meet the new demand efficiently and sustainably. And at the industry level, with the influx of the government spending, looks like a really good opportunity. And we appreciate, what AMP and the others are doing to help us build more momentum to be able to support this influx.
Jim, same to you.
Well, sure. As paint manufacturers, we are forever wrestling with changing environmental regulations. So that's forever a challenge. Sustainability, I mean, that's the biggest thing. That's the most impactful in this time. We're as much an R&D company as we are a paint manufacturer. And, with challenge comes opportunity. So we have opportunity to identify problems and manufacture products that are specific to the solution to those problems. And that's exactly what we intend to do.
And finally, Bob, from the perspective of Apelix, what do you all see as the market drivers, the trends, and some of the primary challenges and opportunities in the maritime coating space these days?
I think a lot of these are old. A lot of them have been building for a period of time, and a lot of them are new. And it's sort of coming to a convergence of safety, workforce and readiness pressures. So, labor, safety, and workforce gaps. The Navy and shipyards have a persistent labor shortage for coatings and surface prep trades, particularly those at high risk, like working at heights and elevation on hulls or superstructures. And there's a strong demand for technologies that can remove people from baskets and scaffolding while still meeting, QP, NAVSE, AMP quality expectations, et cetera. The readiness and schedule pressures, corrosion and coatings, is billions of dollars in annual cost, billions of dollars in out-of-service costs for the Navy and commercial fleet. So creating an urgency for faster, more predictable maintenance workflows is important. And that's where, autonomous and semi-autonomous tools and robotics can help with that. And then, data-driven, everything like some of the other speakers have talked about, data-driven QA and QC, and having, all this information about the process and how you can improve it and how the work itself actually does. So anything from like PPG said with the advanced coatings and specialty applications, as they pour more and more science into these materials and make better and better products, it requires, repeatable application, for example, or certain types of inspection that might be necessary over time. And then lastly is, the trainings and standards that we talked about earlier, such as the AMP emphasizing workforce development and best practices, and AMP helping create the natural channel for training contractors. Those types of things, I think, are always something that adds value to the industry.
At AMP, we're very appreciative to each of you for your support. We wouldn't be able to put on an event like this without you. So as a thank you, I want to let each of you talk a little bit about new developments at your company, the exciting things that you all have going on entering this forum. So consider this an elevator speech. If you're wanting to talk to someone, or you get the opportunity to talk to someone for a minute or two about how you and your company can specifically address some of these issues, what are the big talking points for you? Jim, we can start with you because I know PPG has a lot going on. If you had
I do have a lot going on. If you had to sum it all going on, there was a lot of change last year, a lot of change. But we had a great year in 2025, and we expect to have an excellent year here in 2026. Products are always under development. Don't really have anything that I could throw out in terms of a specific product, but I can tell you we have several things under development now that are going to be very, very impactful to the market, to the marine market. We're also doing a lot of work with application these days. It kind of started overseas last year, but we're doing a lot of development with respect to electrostatic spray application, which ties directly to sustainability. So that has been very, very successful so far, and we look forward to advancing that.
Joe, same to you.
Well, yeah, the advancements at Urban have been pretty stable. However, we invented in recent years a stainless steel grit, and a stainless steel grit has enormous benefits, especially in any containment where there's a risk of water. Historically, if steel grit gets wet, you run a risk of a rust or a fusing together. And one of the things that's pretty exciting is the stainless steel grit. It has a hardness and it has a performance just like regular steel grit. It has similar endurance as well. But the stainless steel grit's pretty popular, becoming more and more popular in blast rooms, especially at shipyards where maybe they've used steel grit or they don't use steel grit because moisture. And this has become a problem solver from that standpoint. So anybody that has enclosures that likes the recyclability of steel grit but don't use it just because there's a higher moisture risk, this is a product everybody's getting around because it performs well. It's immune to rust, and it works in all the equipment. There's really no changes. So we're pretty excited about that. And one of the things that we're hoping to learn this week is how flexible are some of the specifications that have been on the books for a long time that could be reviewed, and some of these new abrasives could be considered. So that's what we hope.
And Bob, what's new at Apelix these days?
Yeah, so at Apelix, the Power Wash drone that we launched several years ago is now in over 24 countries around the world. Is being used for all sorts of things, anything from industrial and maritime to cleaning buildings and skyscrapers and things like that. But what's new is our spray painting drone. So we launched that this year. That's the culmination of 10 years of research and development and work to get that to the point where it can do production painting at a very significant level. And part of what is driving this is we're doing some work for the U.S. Army on chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense. So CBRN defense, where we are automating that workflow, right? So instead of soldiers going out and manually decontaminating a helicopter or troop mover or tank, right? We've developed a proof of concept of an autonomous drone that does that fully autonomously. Now that's important because that is a dual use technology, meaning everything we develop for the U.S. Army, we can put into our products for the market. And so that in part is why we've been able to launch this spray painting drone, because we have that level of precision flight control. And also because it's virtually impossible to do what we're doing with drones with a human pilot. You have to have the computer on there. So we've added a lot of the autonomy, including to the Power Wash drones. It now has air trace, where you just select a box and hit clean, and it goes and does it autonomously, to the same function for the spray painting drone. So 2026, we're looking forward to getting the painting drone in the market, getting user feedback, and continually improving on its efficacy.
And Russell, we'll wrap up with you. From the perspective of Atlantic Design, what do you all have going on these days?
Yes, the last year was an excellent year. We're looking forward to even better 26. Again, I think that Atlantic Design's strongest point is we try to learn from the customer what are their needs and how can we then adapt our equipment to fit their needs. So we're looking for smaller footprint, more flexibility. We're seeing that our equipment continues to get smaller in footprint and typically higher in production and efficiency. So we're able to do some things that we were not able to do before. And we did some work for the Navy, and they told us that out of all of the companies they had contacted, we were the only one that said we could do this specific surface prep that they wanted to do, and they purchased and we delivered, and it worked real well. So what we're doing is continuing on with improving design. Like I said, maybe getting into the feedback, which is getting real important, and then getting into the safety and the small flexibility aspects.
All right, the last question I've got for each of you. We've spent a lot of this episode discussing what you have going on individually and at a company level. I want to look at it more holistically at what events like this can do and what an association like AMP can do to steer all of you, to steer this industry in the right direction to where it works for everyone, or works best for everyone, I should say. Bob, I'll start with you on this because you already touched on this topic a bit when you were going into some of the workforce development components. What do you view as the role of AMP, the role of events like this in helping those initiatives? What can we do at an association level to really help the industry out?
I think it's absolutely critical that events like this are held because it's a forum between the asset owners and those in need of help, especially when it comes to the labor shortages and other things that are coming up across with industry, and people that can either provide them tools to help with those issues that they have and or modify or develop tools that can help them. So that's one way. Another way is having organizations for an industry like AMP that can help with the standards as well as bringing communities together is very valuable. And then third, AMP has a very well-respected training program to help fill that gap because there is a big need for skilled labor in this industry.
Joe, I'll move to you on this one. What do you view the role or the ideal role of AMP as being? What's the role of this event? What can it potentially do?
Well, I'm glad AMP put this together because I think AMP is constantly thinking about how can we make our members successful. And the members of AMP are either suppliers as well as the contractor and sometimes the asset owners. That's our view, is that AMP wants this whole industry to be successful and try to advance some of the technologies. And I think, from an asset owner standpoint, they're eager to see what can help them. And like some of us have already mentioned, we're eager to see what's important to them. But, I think AMP, by doing these things, what else? AMP could, if AMP sponsors some of these events like this, maybe they spur maybe a specifications discussion, or maybe it spurs a new committee that finds a need, with feedback from things like this. Maybe, some kind of a committee is formed to say, hey, how do we solve this problem? And we need industry input and we need labor input. We need all these inputs from chemistry of a coating. And so that's how I see AMP playing a pretty important role. And that's why I think this is a good start. This is the first one. I think there's going to be a lot learned for our company and for AMP, and I think for all the people that attend.
Russell, I'll move to you. How can AMP best support you all?
I think that the strongest role that AMP has got is that they're the kind of in between. Everybody is understaffed. Every employee is overworked. If you've got a job, you've got more work on your desk than you can handle. So we constantly need someone that's out there, looking as the go-between. So what AMP, I think with this is a real excellent example of this is like, hey, they're obviously talking to the suppliers and the end users. And then if they can, you'll never know when you'll get some information, like an end user will say, hey, I'm looking for this or looking for that. And we would look to AMP to say, hey, maybe Atlantic Design can stretch their equipment to do something, or Appellix or PVG, and Irvin can change something slightly. So they're out there, kicking the tires, lifting up the rocks, and then trying to put us together. So I think this is we're excited, and we jumped on board. So I think this is really excellent to get the suppliers to the end users or the asset managers that get the information they need. And of course, we've got the big AMP show, but these here seem to be more specific, and AMP is uniquely positioned to know the needs and get the suppliers and the users together.
And Jim, take us home. What's the role of AMP and events like this in addressing some of these needs that we've been talking about today?
Well, I think from PPG's perspective, we look at AMP as the ultimate connector. We have faith that this is going to spark a movement for similar meetings like this down the line in different places. I know there's plans for that, exactly. which is a fantastic thing. You know, PPG and AMP, you know, and NACE before it, we have a long-term relationship. We've worked together for a very, very long time. And, you know, please just continue to do what you're doing.
We'll certainly try to. Jen, as the organizer of this event from a staff perspective, I'll give you the last word for anyone listening to this that might want to learn more, that might want to register. How can they do that? Just make your final pitch to our audience, and then I'm guessing it's the amp.org website, the events page, but anything else you'd like to plug from an events perspective before we wind down?
Yeah, thank you, Ben. I just want to say we are deeply grateful to our sponsors whose support makes this possible. Your commitment reflects a shared recognition that investing in contractor collaboration, workforce development, and best practices is essential for long-term health and readiness of the maritime industry. So kudos to all of you. This event is a true example of industry coming together to strengthen the foundation of the maritime coatings work and cathodic protection work that we're doing, especially now when it matters the most. So registration is open for the event. There's a link on the homepage of the website. It is free to asset owners and painting contractors, and a nominal fee for all the other demographics that make up our membership. So please register. We already have quite a few coming in. There's a limited amount of seats for this event, so register as soon as you can. Thank you.
And with that, we can bring this episode to a close. As Jen mentioned, just go to the AMP homepage, ampp.org, the homepage for AMP, the Association for Materials Protection and Performance. Go to that events tab, and you can find information on this, as well as a number of other events that AMP is hosting throughout the year, most notably the AMP Annual Conference and Expo in Houston in March. You can learn about that, and this Maritime Coatings Contractor Forum, which we've been discussing in this episode. All of that is available at the events page at amp.org. With that, we're done. I want to thank our panelists one more time for their time. On behalf of them and also Jen Merck of our staff team here at AMP, I'm Ben Dubose, news editor with AMP Publications. As always, we appreciate you so much for listening, and please come back soon for more new AMP podcasts.
Thanks, Ben.